The Orissa High Court has upheld divorce for a man, stating a husband is entitled to peace and emotional relief that can only be found in dissolution of this broken bond. This is a case where parties had been living separately since 2009, 45 FIRs had been filed by the wife, and in the end, even after cruelty by wife was established, the Orissa High Court ordered husband to pay alimony. Let's understand the facts and background in this matter first. Parties got married at Cuttack in May 2003. Post-marriage, the couple started residing at their matrimonial home in Haripur and later lived at different locations such as Bhubaneswar, Bangalore, USA, Japan, etc. But the marriage was soon strained when the wife allegedly asked her husband to sever all ties with his parents, demanded financial control by insisting on being the sole nominee in his insurance policies, and frequently engaged in quarrels. After facing continuous marital discord, in the year 2009, the husband filed for divorce under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act, seeking dissolution of marriage on grounds of cruelty. Let's understand what were the allegations by the husband. According to the husband, his wife's conduct had made it impossible for him to continue the marriage. His primary grievances included constant quarrels, financial control, and the forced eviction of his elderly parents from their home by the wife and local goons. The counsel for the husband highlighted that the wife systematically harassed him and his family by filing multiple false cases, including over 45 FIRs against him and his family members. It was also stated that the husband, who resided abroad for employment, had been forced to defend himself in multiple jurisdictions and has been subjected to continuous harassment at the hands of his wife. The counsel further stated that the repeated abuse of legal processes was solely intended to create mental distress for the husband and to prevent him from leading a peaceful life. Now, what was the defense by the wife? Contesting this divorce petition, the wife, on the other hand, filed a case under Section 9 of the Hindu Marriage Act, asking for restitution of conjugal rights. In her defense, she denied all the allegations made by her husband and claimed that he was the one who abandoned her without justifiable cause. The wife further added that she had always been willing to reconcile and resume cohabitation, but the respondent refused to continue the marriage under the influence of his parents. She even contended that her marital rights had been unfairly denied. Now, what was the Cuttack Family Court's decision in this matter? In August 2023, the learned Cuttack Family Court judge delivered a consolidated judgment addressing both the divorce as well as the restitution of conjugal rights cases together. After noting evidences on record, the court concluded that the cruelty by wife had been established indeed, and thus it granted divorce to the husband under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act. The family court also observed that the wife's persistent behavior of quarreling, financial control, and acts of intimidation against the parents of the husband, when she, along with local goons, forcibly ousted the respondent's elderly parents, this act was deemed to be a significant act of cruelty. Consequently, the marriage was legally dissolved, and the court also dismissed the appellant's prayer for restitution of conjugal rights. Now, most important, despite the family court saying clearly that cruelty by wife had been established, it still went ahead and awarded Rs 63 lakh as permanent alimony to the wife. However, not pleased with the said order, the wife appealed against this divorce decree and also the quantum of alimony in the High Court. Let's understand what were the contentions of wife while challenging this order. The counsel appearing on behalf of the wife submitted that the family court erred in its judgment, which was legally unsustainable and also liable to be set aside. The counsel contended that the dispute arose not from any cruelty inflicted by her, but due to the husband's deliberate desertion and abandonment of the marital relationship. The wife further argued that her bona fide intention to resume cohabitation was clearly demonstrated by filing RCR. She also stated that the family court only relied on the testimonies by the husband's family. Interestingly, with regards to the multiple FIRs and cases in the process, the wife claimed that this was a legitimate exercise of her legal rights and cannot be construed as cruelty or harassment. Now let's understand finally what were the observations and judgment by the Orissa High Court. At the outset, the division bench of Justice Chitranjan Das and Justice B.P. Rutre observed, since the parties had remained estranged for an extended period and the respondent having clearly refused to cohabit due to emotional distress, the court found no jurisdiction to delay the proceedings further. With regards to the wife justifying her legal right to file 45 FIRs, the High Court remarked, The frequency and nature of these cases go beyond a reasonable exercise of legal rights and instead demonstrate a calculated effort to exert pressure and inflict mental agony upon the respondent. Therefore, the contention that multiple cases alone cannot amount to mental cruelty fails when reviewed against the sheer extent of litigation initiated by the appellant wife and the prolonged harassment faced by the respondent husband and his family. Amongst multiple other statements, the High Court noted that the parents of the husband had given their testimony on oath, which stated the appellant from the very early days of the marriage had been abusive towards the family, both verbally and physically. In their sworn testimonies, they depose that soon after the marriage, the appellant wife hurled abusive words at them, consistently referring to them as bastard, choto loco, and bhikhari. The appellant even assaulted the respondent husband with a loha khadika, which is also an iron pot. The High Court then noted another incident that had taken place in November 2009, when the wife had returned to her husband's parents' house with her sister, and despite being welcomed by them, she allegedly began verbally abusing and physically assaulting them with fists and kicks, demanding to know her husband's whereabouts. The matters escalated so much at that point in time that the elderly parents of the husband were locked out of the house, forcing them to spend the night at a mutt and later seek shelter at their daughter's house. To this, the High Court said, these allegations were not made in isolation. The testimonies of the neighbors and independent witnesses corroborated these events, providing independent evidence of the appellant's violent and threatening behavior. The High Court also said, repeated threats to commit suicide or worse, to harm the spouse and the family members transcend mere emotional outbursts, and they represent a gross misuse of emotional vulnerability and a blatant form of psychological warfare. Dismissing the wife's appeal, the Orissa High Court concluded, the law cannot compel a person to endure a marriage that has become a source of suffering and torment, and the respondent is entitled to the peace and emotional relief that can only be found in the dissolution of this broken bond. Now, lastly, for the main information that all of you are largely interested in, the alimony part. Despite cruelty by the wife being proven, the High Court upheld the alimony awarded by the trial court. To this, the bench stated, marriage, even when dissolved, carries with it certain obligations that cannot be overlooked, particularly in cases where one party may face financial hardship post-separation. Taking into consideration the income, assets, and liabilities disclosed by both parties, as well as their educational qualifications and social backgrounds, this court too deems it necessary to fix the permanent alimony. Consequently, the permanent alimony of Rs 63 lakh awarded by the learned judge Family Court Cuttack is not to be interfered with. This amount seeks to strike a balance between providing the appellant with reasonable financial security and ensuring that the respondent is not unduly burdened, thereby upholding the principles of fairness and equity in matrimonial disputes. Now, what does Voice for Men India take in this matter? These cases make us wonder whether the husband actually got any justice or mere freedom by himself paying the money. Rupees 63 lakh may just sound as a lump sum payable right now, but can anyone ever quantify the turbulent time he spent from 2009 to 2025, possibly losing his best youthful years, fighting false and frivolous cases by wife? Such financial rewards, despite husband being eligible for divorce, only encourages women to approach police, courts, satisfy their egos, and then have the last laugh. Wife threatening to die by suicide is one of the most frightening situations for men. First, let's understand what does Section 117 of the Bharatiya Sakshiya Adhiniyam, formerly numbered as Section 113A of the Indian Evidence Act, state. When the question is whether the commission of suicide by a woman had been abetted by a husband or any relative of a husband, and it is shown that she had committed suicide within a period of 7 years from the date of her marriage, and that her husband or such relative of a husband had subjected her to cruelty, the court may presume, having regard to all other circumstances of the case, that such suicide had been abetted by a husband or by such relative of a husband. This is why the current Bombay High Court order can help many married men to address such a situation before it is too late. What is this case about? Parties got married in April 2009 And according to the husband, his wife's parents would frequently visit their matrimonial home and cause interference in their marital life. In October 2010, after giving birth to their child, the wife abruptly left the company of her husband and returned to her parents' home. After a few days, when the husband and his parents visited his in-laws' place, they were allegedly insulted by them. What were the allegations made by the husband? According to him, his wife would give constant threats of ending her life by suicide and thereby sending him and his family members to jail. The husband also alleged that his wife had even falsely accused his father of outraging her modesty. The husband then stated that when the cross-examination was sought to be done in respect of attempted suicide by wife, she appeared before the court by applying mehndi, that is henna, on her hands to suppress the evidence of attempted suicide. The wife, in her defense, denied any charges of cruelty. She informed the trial court about her father-in-law's addiction with liquor, due to which he would allegedly abuse her and threaten to beat her. What were the trial court and the first appellate court decision in this matter? Both the courts decided in favor of the husband, concluding cruelty by wife. But the wife appealed the divorce decree in the High Court, stating that both the lower courts had committed an error in judging the evidence in its right perspective. The wife then challenged this order, stating that alleged cruelty was not sufficient enough to grant divorce to her husband. Let's understand what were the Bombay High Court findings and order in this case. At the outset, Justice R.M. Joshi of the Bombay High Court observed that under Section 100 of CPC, it was not open for this court to reassess the evidence to record independent finding of fact. The court stated that it was, however, open for the wife to satisfy this court that the findings of the fact recorded by the courts below were inconsistent with the evidence on record and hence perverse. The High Court then went on to note that the wife was unable to give any explanation for making allegation against her husband's father without making any complaint to the police. With regards to threat suicide given by wife, Justice Joshi added, the husband has not only alleged that his wife used to threaten him and his family members that she would send them to jail by committing suicide, but in fact, it was alleged that an attempt was made to commit suicide. Such an act on the part of the spouse would amount to cruelty, and it was a ground for a decree of divorce. Disposing of the matter, the Bombay High Court opined that there was no perversity in the findings to cause any interference with the lower court orders. You can read the entire Bombay High Court order in the description link of this video. Parents, grandparents at home, and teachers at school, they are the closest guardians of our children. But sadly, when cases like the current ones appear, we need to be alert to ensure well-being of our little ones. Since this story is about an affair between a female teacher and a student's father, both need to be blamed equally for the situation that was created. What is this case about? 25-year-old Sridevi Rudagi was working as a preschool principal in Western Bengaluru. Satish, who is a trader by profession, was a father of 3 daughters, and in the year 2023, he and his wife got their youngest 5-year-old daughter admitted to Sridevi's school. What happened next? How did the affair and blackmail begin? Satish got acquainted with Sridevi during his child's admission process. According to him, the teacher maintained contact with him and both started exchanging messages and video calls via a separate SIM card and phone. Gradually, their meetings turned into an affair, and this is when Sridevi first demanded Rs 4 lakh from Satish. Since Satish gave in to this demand for the first time, it was natural that the pattern would continue. In January this year, Sridevi demanded Rs 15 lakh from Satish and also pressurized him to start living together. But when the student's father hesitated this time, the teacher actually walked up to his home on pretext of borrowing Rs 50,000. Thankfully, the family was away at that point in time. Soon, Satish's business suffered setback and he decided to relocate from Bengaluru to Gujarat with his family. Now, this is the time when the family needed their daughter's school transfer certificate, which became a golden opportunity for the con teacher to extort more money. In March this year, when Satish visited the school for the transfer certificate, he found himself cornered in Sridevi's office. Along with the teacher, 2 other men, identified as 38-year-old Ganesh Kale and 28-year-old Sagar, were also present. The trio then started showing some very personal, intimate photographs of Satish and Sridevi and now demanded Rs 20 lakh. They cornered Satish to pay up this lump sum or threatened to send these photographs to his family. Finding himself in a soup, Satish negotiated this ransom amount and all agreed that the deal would be settled with a payment of rupees 15 lakh. Initially, Satish transferred rupees 1.9 lakh, but the demands kept continuing. On March 17, Sridevi called Satish to remind him about the remaining payments. The breakup was rupees 1 lakh each to Sagar and Kale, rupees 8 lakh for herself, and rupees 5 lakh to a former ACP. This is when Satish put his foot down and approached police. The officers then informed him that there was no such person in their department to whom he was supposed to pay rupees 5 lakh. After prima facie investigation, Sridevi, Sagar and Kale all were arrested and sent to judicial custody for 14 days. Now, what does Voice Women India take in this matter? Was the woman only at fault in this case? A married man, father of 3 children, thoroughly knew what he was getting into by establishing an extramarital relationship with his own daughter's teacher. Of course, if things wouldn't have taken an ugly turn, the affair perhaps would have continued. So, this is a story not about victimizing this particular man. But there are many cases where men, most often the elderly gentlemen, are genuinely innocent, but somehow they get trapped in technology-based frauds such as nude gang calls or any other internet scams. In all such cases, never ever make payments in the name of blackmail. There will be times when such gangs will threaten to file false rape cases against you if you approach authorities. But do not worry one bit. The minute you succumb to any form of blackmailing, you will be trapped forever. The minute you show courage, such gangs may not waste more time on you and most likely move on to the next prey. Some years ago, whenever a married man would dare to discuss the verbal and physical abuse by his wife, the society would end up calling him names such as loser or even namard. However, the same society is now reacting sharply in favor of such men when video graphics of these acts are coming to the fore. What is this case about? 30-year-old Lokesh Manjhi is a LOCO pilot by profession. In June 2023, Lokesh got married to Harshita Raikwar, who is the daughter of a petrol pump employee. The couple has a daughter who is barely 1 or 2 years old. According to the husband, although his marriage had taken place without any dowry demand, his wife, mother-in-law and brother-in-law have been demanding money and jewelry from him since the time of this marriage. Soon after the couple started living together as husband and wife, Harshita allegedly became controlling, preventing Lokesh from communicating with his parents, limiting visitors to their home, and even restricting his interactions with friends. Lokesh further claimed that his wife also refused to help with any household chores. Delhi Metro gives us maximum content, be it in the form of half-naked women dancing in its coaches while making reels, or just the regular tutu meme turning violent. This time, a new incident has gone viral from the Delhi Metro, where a fully able adult woman is asking an adult male passenger to get up and vacate a seat for her, and this has struck a social media debate. The video that has emerged online is said to be from the blue line approaching Janakpuri West. In the 49-second footage, we can see that some women perhaps originally asked the male passenger to get up from his seat. When the man started mocking them, some chaos occurred, and then another Sardarji gentleman intervenes, requesting him to get up and end the matter. Once he gets up, the argument still continues with a smile. On the other hand, there is another lady accompanying that woman. She starts making a video of him and she can be heard saying, "Bhaiya, ab to viral ho jaoge aap." She tells him that try being a little quiet and also be a bigger person and show some civility. To this, the male passenger mocks again and asks who is more grown up to show maturity. First, let's watch this video.
भैया शांत हो जाओ। भैया आप तो वायरल हो जाओगे अब, भैया वायरल हो जाओगे अब। पूरे कोच में हल्ला मचा दिया। थोड़ी तो शांत रहो, थोड़ी तो बड़े हो के शराफत दिखाओ ना। बड़े हो ना, वो तो दिख गया कौन किससे बड़ा है। ठीक है, तो ये देखो, ये जनकपुरी वेस्ट वाली मेट्रो। बस अब शांत हो जाओ भैया, बस।
Once the video went viral, our social media comment committee became very active. Here are some of the comments. He was not in women compartment. He seemed to be respectful. Why was he pulled up from his seat and forced to leave his seat? Why was only he targeted while other men were seated? Were women disabled physically or mentally? Maybe. So, she doesn't consider herself to be as equal as men when she needs a seat. Hypocrite gender. Seat issues can definitely spark interesting conversations in crowded spaces like the Delhi Metro. It's always best to handle such situations with patience and understanding. First, they need an entire women's coach in metro train. Then they want particular seats that are marked in each coach. When nothing works, place sympathy card and vacate seats of young men. Ironically, this isn't gender biased. This is not ladies' seat in Delhi Metro. Corner 2 seats are reserved, not the middle ones. Women want equality everywhere, but not in train, bus and toilets. भाई मेरा तो ये मानना है कि अगर इस तरीके के सिचुएशन में अगर फंसे हो तो चुपचाप जो लड़की बोलती है वो कर दो, क्योंकि कंट्रोवर्सी करने से क्या फायदा। झूठ का मर्द जात ही बदनाम होता है और लड़की वीडियो बना के वायरल कर देती है जिससे और बदनामी होता है। जितना हो सके कंट्रोवर्सी से दूर ही रहो। आई एम सॉरी, मेरी ही गलती है बोल के मूव ऑन कर जाओ। Was he seating on a woman's seat or in a woman coach? If not, why these girls are bullying? Shame on men for not standing up for this guy. This nonsense needs to stop. हर बार लड़के को ही बकरा बनकर हलाल करना बंद करो. Don't argue with women in public spaces. She can say anything and get you jailed. They are vicious. Laws are against men in Vishwaguru. This is becoming an issue. Even man needs place to sit. हर जगह आ जाती है, भैया उठ जाओगे? What are your thoughts on this incident? Do share in the comments below. Keep following us on our social media handles, that is X, Instagram, Facebook and Telegram. The ID is @VoiceForMenIn. If you're active on LinkedIn, you can follow our handle Voice for Men India. You can also read several other articles and judgments on our website voiceformenindia.com. If you find value in our videos, do consider giving us a like and sharing the same ahead to spread awareness. Lastly, do hit that bell icon and subscribe to YouTube channel Voice for Men India for regular updates. That's it from me as of now. Thank you very much for watching. Namaste. Jai Hind.